I can have a moment to just reflect on myself just a little bit. As a sidebar, I have been on a journey, a health and wellness journey, I might add, that has ebbs and flows. It corresponds with my menopause, and already, if you are listening to this, the men in the room just left right there. But that's okay. Hang with me for a second. The reason why I bring this up is because it's been a journey, and it's been a journey of learning and whatnot. And the thing is I'm at a point in my life now where I know I have the knowledge. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know the things that I should be eating. I know the exercise I should be doing. And I do it, and it works for a while, but then it stops working. And then I cycle into this like it's not working. I actually have days where I go between like I shouldn't eat that because I know it's not good for me, to oh well, I'm married, my husband loves me the way I am. Like that's where I pivot from, and it depends on my motivation and my willpower at the time, usually the time of day. In the morning, I can usually be like, no, I shouldn't eat that and I'll be fine. But by like, late afternoon to the evening, I'm just like, meh, I'm already married. Who am I trying to impress? Why am I telling you this? Well, I feel like there is a correlation for me when I talk about my struggles with my health journey, and perhaps the struggles that many have with their fearful dog. And maybe it's the struggle you have with your fearful dog or your unconfident dog or your reactive dog. And so today I wanted to talk about the 3 reasons why your fearful or reactive dog may still be reactive and what you can do about it. Following my health and wellness journey. This may or may not make sense. You know what? Hang with me. We'll see if it all comes together at the end. Let's get into it.
Are you worried that your fearful dog may hurt someone or something else? Do you have to prepare just to take a walk around the block? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I too had that dog. The one that you could only walk at nighttime when no one else was around. And I felt ashamed, and oh gosh, I wish that people could just see the dog that I know and love. I wanted the confidence to be able to walk my dog and not have to worry about who or what was around the corner. And I kept telling myself that if I just keep doing obedience drills and distracting with treats, that things would get better. Until I found the secret. Fear is not something that you can train out of a dog. In this podcast, you will find tips to help build your dog's confidence naturally, communication and understanding to foster that trust, and how to address those fear-based behaviors effectively so that you can enjoy a stress-free life with your dog. So if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners, grab your notebook, and let's get to it.
Well, hello there, my friend. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you are here. We are here. We are doing this together. This is going to be a ride. Let's see where this takes us. Shall we just see where this takes us? I mean, I'm feeling it these days. I'm about to embark on a new health and wellness journey. I've decided to tell my husband he's doing it with me. That's probably an exercise in frustration. Like if you know, you know, right? If you know, you know. Ever tried doing dieting or health and wellness stuff with your significant other and they can lose weight by thinking about losing weight? Like they're just like, I think I might start to lose weight. And then the next day they're like, I'm down 7 pounds. You ever done that? I know. This isn't a health and wellness podcast, so let's try to focus in. But the reason why I'm saying it is because I was thinking about my frustrations that I have, like all this knowledge that I have and all the information that I have and everything that I've been doing, and yet, I'm not getting the results. The long-term sustainable results that I want. And I thought, I bet you that my fearful dog owners, my fear reactive dog owners, are feeling the same thing. I bet you are feeling it. So I was like, let's talk about that. So I was sat down and I wrote down 3 reasons. 3 reasons why your fearful dog may still be reactive and what can we do about it. And the very first thing, because let's just jump right in, the very first thing, and I think this is the one thing that I probably focus on more than anyone else I know, and anybody who's been working with me recently already will know it. It's like a whole module in the Fearful Dog program, and that is mindset. And in particular, we dive in and we talk a lot about the fearful dog's mindset and how to understand how your fearful dog is seeing the world so that you can come at, helping them through that with understanding instead of frustration. That's definitely part of the mindset module. However, the bigger part of the module is actually talking about our mindset, the mindset of the human being, because quite often we get so focused in on fixing the dog that we have to fix the dog. The dog needs to be fixed. This needs to be fixed. We get so hyper focused on fixing the dogs. We actually don't really take some time to ask ourselves, how are we doing? Like, how are we doing? Right? That is a question I want you to ask yourself that all the time. How am I feeling right now? What is happening with me? I've actually been really focusing a lot on how I'm feeling. And I'm actually at the point now where I'm starting to make awareness of where I'm feeling it. Right? When I start to get emotional about something's not working for me, I'm like, where am I feeling that? Like, am I feeling that in my chest? Is my chest getting tight? Am I feeling it in my gut? Sometimes I feel it in my gut, like I'm like, oh, I'm feeling that. And sometimes I feel it in my throat. Like that's where I'm feeling it. So I've been really, really almost hyper focusing on this idea of where am I feeling this? What is happening for me right now? What am I feeling? Because the reality of it is, and I think the thing we don't talk about enough is that dogs are not reading your obedience commands. For those of you like, I know my dog doesn't listen to me at all. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. Your obedient dogs are going to be understanding their obedience, obviously, because you've been working on the obedience and all that stuff. But what they're reading, what they're picking up on is your emotional response, your emotional energy that you're bringing to the conversation. And if we don't take a moment to step back and get that in check, if that's left unchecked, then there's a good chance we're sending conflicting information down that leash. If we're saying to our dog in a moment, like a fearful episode happens, they see another dog and they're like, I'm uncomfortable. Maybe your dog's reactive. So they're like, I'm uncomfortable and I'm going to start my theatrics right now. And you're trying to go through the techniques of trying to distract the dog and where's my body at and where do I pull back on the leash, and you're thinking about all of those things and you're saying things like it's okay or whatever. I don't like that, but let's say you're saying that, but inside in your body you are feeling like, oh God, here we go again, like, oh, that dog, or maybe even you're saying things like that stupid neighbor's dog is out again, like whatever is going on in your head, that's what your dog's picking up on. And I know for a few people that I've spoken to for the last little while, because I've been working with some people and doing some one-on-ones with them, I've had people come out say to me flat out, yeah, I really just don't like the people or their dogs right now, right? So if you're walking through life and you're angry that neighbor's dog is out again, why is that neighbor's dog always out? They just let that dog out and it barks and barks and barks and barks, and you're feeling that in your chest. You're just like, oh, you're going out into the world with that dog. What do you think your dog's picking up on? You might be pulling back on the leash and saying heel and asking them to walk and watch me and look at me and all of those things. But your dog's picking up on the let's go get some stuff. Like, let's do this thing. Like, that's what your dog's picking up on. So we really want to make sure that, I think the first step is always going to be awareness. How aware are you of how you're feeling right now? Now, I have lots of sort of things that I personally do. I share them over in the group, but like I am really conscientious of my emotional response to things, and I'm really trying hard to change some of my habits. And those have not like the things that I'm doing may not have anything to do with dog stuff. But one of the things that I've started to do, and here's just a few tips. One of the things I started to do is I stopped. I'm trying to reduce the amount of time I'm on social media, and I'm consuming the negativity of the world, right? Can we all agree upon that right now? Whether or not you are, Canadian, American, the world seems a little agitated. And if we start our day off every day, sort of picking up our phone and scrolling through the socials, or we're picking up the news feeds, and all we're feeding first thing in the morning is that negativity, we're going to walk through life with that. And so I've been really, really conscientious about that. I've made an effort to actually reduce the amount of times that I'm on social media. And I make sure that I start my day off with something positive. I always start my day off feeding my dogs. I take my dogs outside. I spend 10 minutes outside with the dog. I don't just let them out. I go out with them. And I spend at least 10 minutes out, and I get some sunshine, some fresh air. I start my day off that way, right? And then when I do grab my phone for the first time, it is usually to put on a podcast. And my podcast, for you, it should be this podcast. Am I right? But for me, I try to find something positive. So it's either a podcast or an audiobook, but it's usually something positive, something that is going to uplift me in some way. So just starting off, maybe recognizing where in my area of my life can I maybe infuse some positivity? Can I be aware of how I'm feeling? If I'm going out in the walk being negative, what can I do to change that? Maybe that means like before my walk, I do a little bit of positive thing. Maybe it means I listen to Tracy while I'm on my walk. I don't know. I'm hoping that I'm positive. I'm hoping I'm a positive influence in your life. Anyway, that's number one, right? As far as one of the reasons. We can't dismiss it, right? Like we can't dismiss it. So instead of focusing on fixing the dog, let's focus on where we're building our bond with our dog. Right? When I go out with my dog, I'm not fixing the dog, I'm building my bond. We can start to change our language around that just to sort of change our mindset a little bit. But every little bit helps. Start off with awareness. Start off with where are you right now? How are you feeling right now? Where are you feeling that right now? Start there. Number two, I put down as far as, and this kind of bleeds in a little bit with mindset, but it would be a lack of clear communication. Okay, so that unclear communication, as I've already mentioned, has to do with your mindset. Again, what you're doing and how you're feeling. If those two things don't mesh, you're going to have conflicting communication to your dog because your dog's picking up on it. And I've said this before, but especially if you have an unconfident or fearful dog, they're generally very sensitive. You know that. Right? You know that you're always telling me things like my dog reads my mind, my dog feels everything. So they're feeling what you're feeling, and they don't want to feel if they're feeling the frustration or the anger or whatever, it's going to conflict with what you're trying to teach them. So that's one of the things. But the other part of this that I wanted to bring up is the idea that when we go out into the world and we're heading out for a walk, especially for you, if you have a dog that's reactive and they've practiced reactivity a lot, you will have in your mind that your mind is replaying that movie of what your dog does when it sees another dog or when it sees a person, whatever your dog's trigger is. So you have that movie that just replays and replays and replays. And what happens is that when for example, when I say to people, so what is it that you want? What do you want the dog to do? Inevitably, most people will turn to me and say, well, I don't want them to pull on the leash. I don't want them to lunge. I don't want them to bark. And I'm like, that's what you don't want them to do. What do you want them to do? What do you want your dog to do? Because if you're walking your dog and you're thinking about the things you don't want your dog to do, your mind is still replaying the movie of what the dog does when it reacts, right? Your mind can't work in that negative thing. right? It's the same. I think I've used this example. It's the same if I say, don't think of an elephant right now. You immediately saw an elephant, didn't you? You're like, oh, there's that darn elephant, right? So that's the same thing. So we really want to be crystal clear on what do you want the dog to do? That's the first step. What do you actually want the dog to do? And then the next question you have to ask yourself is, does your dog know how to do that? Right? Does your dog even know how to do that? What you're asking them to do they know how to do that? Without the presence of the trigger, can your dog do that? And if you say, yeah, of course my dog can do that, where's the proof of that? And the reason why I say that is because one of the things that dog trainers alike will hear is people will say, well, my dog knows better. I hear that a lot. Or my dog knows how to do that. My dog understands that. My dog understands that. I'm like, do you have proof that your dog actually understands that? Because if you don't actually have proof of that your dog actually understands what you're asking them to do, then we need to start there. So if we say, okay, I want my dog to be able to walk by the dog and just keep walking, right? That's what I'm asking them to do. A lot of times when people say that, well, I want my dog to just walk right by, I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing right now? Well, I try to get their attention, and then I try to distract them with food, and then I throw food on the ground. And I'm like, well, that's actually not what you want them to do then, right? That's not what you want them to do. So we need to get to a point where we figure out what we want them to do, and then how are we going to do it? Can they do it without the trigger around? And if the answer is yes, and you know that because the dog walks perfectly fine without the trigger around, then we can move on to step 2. But if you're saying to me, my dog can walk calmly by, that's what I want. I want my dog to walk calmly by when there's another dog walking. And you're walking through life and your dog is frantically scanning and searching and seeking and looking for threats everywhere, they're currently not walking calmly by without a threat. So how would they possibly be able to achieve what you're asking them to do when they can't even do it without the threat? So we need to back step and be like, okay, what is it that I really want? Can my dog do it? If they can't do it, how am I going to create the step-by-step plan for my dog to be able to succeed? And we might do that, and this might take a while. And remember, I've always said, we're going to remove all timelines. We're not going to put a timeline on this. It's going to take time. We're going to take the time it takes, so eventually it takes less time, right? But we might have to take a step back. Okay, what does that mean? Well, I want my dog to walk calmly on a leash. Well, then how are we going to do that? Well, let's start in the backyard. Can we walk calmly on a leash back there? If we can't even walk in the backyard calmly, let's start in the house. Can we walk calmly in the house with a leash on? Do you understand what it means when I give you gentle leash guidance? Can I use my hands to actually direct you and not rely on the leash? Are you listening to my body language? Are you even connected with me at all on leash? This is where I would start. We could talk about this forever, but I'll move on to the next one because the next one, buckle in. I actually had to swallow before I talk about that. I have to swallow before I talk about the next one because the next one is the thing I don't like to talk about. I'm going to talk about it anyway. The third thing that may be the reason why your fearful dog is still reactive is your equipment. Oh. I don't know what the crow has to do with anything, but that's how my heart feels. When I talk about equipment. Oh, gosh. All right. Let's get into it. I have to talk about the uncomfortable truth about equipment. And the reason for it is because if you don't already know or haven't heard or you haven't been a part of it, there's such vitriol stuff happening in the dog training industry that revolves around equipment. I kind of want to set you free from that today, and I'm hoping you'll just kind of follow me along. Equipment really has been weaponized in the dog training industry. It's been used as a way to to shame and belittle people, and it causes so much controversy. But the reality of it is that equipment in and of itself, just equipment on its own, is neither good or bad. It's not adversive or non aversive. It's I'm already struggling. I'm already struggling. Okay, take a deep breath, Tracy. You know, and if you're a person that's like, oh, I don't really, equipment is equipment, and you're probably wondering why I'm like this. It's because I have been on the beating side of this equation, and I don't like it, and so I try to avoid it. But if by me avoiding it, you're not getting the real thing. So here it is. Okay, here's the thing. I believe that tools are just tools. That's the bottom line. They're not inherently good or bad. And what matters is how they're used, and more importantly, your relationship with your dog. We keep on forgetting about that. When you truly understand your dog at a deeper level, you're going to realize that it's not the tool that makes the difference at all. The tool might just be something that you need to use in that moment to help clarify communication. It may give you a little bit of leverage if you need it. Not everybody needs it. It's not a one size fits all kind of a thing. And if you're actively working on your communication outside of the event and the tool just allows you to get to a different space, then there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But people will be made to feel bad about the equipment that they use. And listen, at one point I had 19 dogs. If you came into my kennel house at that time and saw the multitude of different colors and whatnot that I used for my dogs, because I had 19 very different dogs, different breeds, different personalities, different drives, different whatever, you would be like, oh, Tracy uses all the tools. And it was true. I did. And sometimes I use tools for a season of the dog's life. Sometimes, if I'm being honest, sometimes I had to use tools because I was injured. And the options were, I either have to use this tool so I have a little bit more control, or I don't take the dogs for a walk, right? Like, this is kind of the reality of it. So, of course, the wrong equipment on your dog can actually make your reactivity worse. And the example that I'm about to use may hurt the hearts of some people, but I'm going to say it. For example, here it goes. If you're using a harness on your dog, there is a good chance that your communication with your dog is confusing, because most harnesses have been designed to allow dogs to pull. They are put on the strongest parts of the dog to allow them to pull. Now, I know someone will come back and go, no, Tracy, there's no pull harnesses. And what I will say about those no pull harnesses, the ones that I have seen, the way that they are quote unquote non-pulling harnesses are either by pulling the dog out of balance or restricting the dog's movement. And I don't necessarily want to restrict a dog. I don't want to pull a dog out of balance during a reactive or pulling moment. I'm trying to talk to the dog. Right? I'm not trying to pull them over. I want to talk to the dog. I'm looking for something that can allow my dog to sort of break out of that focus and look back at me. And a harness has never done that for me. Now, I use harnesses. I use them all the time. Nike's on a harness. My other Jack Russell used to use a harness. Our Basset Hound, Chuckles, like to use harnesses. Sometimes when I was working with Duke, little fearful guy, I put him on a harness. I use harnesses. I'm not against harnesses. I'm just saying you need to use the right tool for the right timing, for the right event, right? But if you're somebody that's walking around with a dog that's jumping up on two legs and pulling and pulling and pulling to try to get at another dog, a harness is not going to help your cause. It's not going to communicate what it is that you want to do. At the end of the day, and this is sort of where I'll leave it, and you can let me know. You can let me know your thoughts on it. At the end of the day, I want to trust that the people that I work with and the work that we do together is allowing you to get to know your dog at a much deeper level. You're working hard on your communication skills outside of the equipment. We know that we live in a world of leashes and collars and all that stuff, so there has to be equipment, but you're working hard on all of that other stuff, that when you do have to reach for a tool or equipment to help assist your dog, you know that you are coming at it at a level that is, I'm doing this for you to improve our communication. I know what works for you. I understand you at a deeper level. I understand that you and I both need this. And maybe it's temporary. Maybe it's just for a short season. Maybe it's not. But regardless, I am doing the very best for you, my dog, that I know better than anyone else. The way I kind of look at it now, and for the people that have been working with me for a while, the way that we kind of look at these things now is literally, when I see everybody still fighting, the fighting that's going on, I'm like, I don't think you get it. I don't think you get it. If you're still arguing about tools and talking about banning tools and all that stuff, I don't think you get it. I think it's such a surface level relationship thing to be arguing about tools that when you get down to this deeper level, you realize it's not important. And the tool is just a tool. And I'm going to leave it at that, my friends. And I'm going to put it out there. Brave me, putting myself out there in the world. I have many times thought about quitting dog training just because of the fighting and the nastiness that happens when you have this conversation. But know this, and I will repeat this again. If you come into my world, if you're in my world, know that there is no judgment here. We all have the same goal of getting to know our dogs at a deeper level, getting to understand our dogs, taking the time that it takes, getting to, put more emphasis on understanding the dog than we put on them understanding us, all of that stuff. And we know that you and I are dog lovers at the end of the day, true and true. All right. That's it for this week. If you like this episode, I stumbled on the please share it because I'm like, don't share it with mean people because I don't like the backlash. Just keep it to yourself. No, don't do that. You can share it. Let's share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with your other dog lovers. Let them know. And if you get an opportunity, please give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really does help push the podcast out to more and more people. And as always, get out there today and be the person that your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks that you are amazing. And so do I. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you all next week. Bye for now. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is meant for education and entertainment purposes only and is not meant to replace hands-on professional training. If you're really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. Okay, that's it. Bye for now.